What does it take to be worth $10 million? Dead or alive? El Chapo's sons just found out in a move that sent shockwaves through the underworld. The United States government has placed the largest bounties in cartel history on the heads of Los Chapitos. This isn't just about drugs anymore. This is about power. This is about revenge. And this is about a war that's about to get very, very bloody. To understand why the US just declared open season on Los Chapitos, you need to understand who they really are. These aren't just El Chapo's sons. They're the new generation of cartel leadership that makes their father look like a choir boy. Meet the Guzman Lopez brothers, Iván Archibaldo, Guzmán Salazar, 41 años, Jesús, Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, 38, and Ovidio Guzmán Lopez, 33, known collectively as Los Chapitos. They've transformed the Sinaloa cartel from a drug trafficking organization into a military-grade empire. When Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was extradited to the United States in 2017, these three brothers didn't just inherit a business, they inherited a war machine. But unlike their father, who preferred to stay in the shadows, Los Chapitos rule through terror and spectacle. They've weaponized social media, recruiting young sicarios through TikTok and Instagram. They've modernized operations with encrypted communications and military-grade equipment. But most importantly, they've made one critical decision that changed everything. They pivoted hard into fentanyl. While El Chapo focused on cocaine and heroin, his sons recognized that fentanyl was the future, 50 times more potent than heroin, cheaper to produce, and devastatingly addictive. They turned the Sinaloa cartel into America's fentanyl factory. The result: over 107,000 overdose deaths in America in 2022 alone, most linked to fentanyl. Most of that fentanyl flowing from Sinaloa labs controlled by Los Chapitos. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button. We're about to reveal intel that most news outlets won't touch. Every week, we expose the secrets of global crime syndicates. Don't miss what's coming next. On December 15, 2023, the US Department of Justice made an unprecedented announcement. Not just one, but three separate $10 million bounties, the largest rewards in DEA history. $10 million for Iván Archibaldo Guzmán Salazar, $10 million for Jesús Alfredo Guzmán Salazar, and $10 million for Ovidio Guzmán Lopez. $30 million total, more than the bounty on Osama bin Laden. Attorney General Merrick Garland didn't mince words. The Chapitos are responsible for the manufacturing and distribution of fentanyl that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. But here's what they didn't say publicly. According to sources within the DEA, this bounty isn't just about drugs, it's about sending a message. The US is treating Los Chapitos not as criminals, but as enemy combatants. The timing isn't coincidental. With over 70,000 fentanyl deaths annually, pressure from Congress has reached a breaking point. Some senators are calling for military action against cartel labs. Others want to designate cartels as terrorist organizations. The bounties fall under the Narcotics Rewards Program, which has paid out over $135 million since 1986, but never for amounts this large. never for targets this high profile, and never with stakes this personal. Remember, Ovidio was already captured once. In January 2023, the operation required 3,000 Mexican soldiers and resulted in 29 deaths. But within months, intelligence indicated he was still running operations from prison through encrypted messages and corrupt officials. The capture triggered Culiacanazo 2.0, a coordinated cartel response that shut down an entire city. Airports closed, schools evacuated. The message was clear: touch one of us and we'll burn it all down. But there's a deeper game being played here, one that involves betrayal, internal wars, and intelligence that could only come from inside the cartel itself. Our sources suggest the timing of these bounties isn't about American politics. It's about Mexican cartel politics. Specifically, a brewing war between Los Chapitos and Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the 76-year-old co-leader of the Sinaloa cartel. Mayo has led the Sinaloa cartel for over 4 decades. He's the ghost who's never been caught, never been photographed clearly, never made a mistake. But Los Chapitos represent everything he despises about the new generation: flashy, violent, and careless. According to intercepted communications, Mayo has been negotiating with US authorities for months. Not surrender exactly, but something more valuable: information. The kind of detailed intelligence that could only come from someone who's been in the room for every major decision. The Chapitos control the northern trafficking routes through Tijuana and Mexicali. Mayo controls the southern routes through Guadalajara and the Pacific coast. But fentanyl has made those northern routes exponentially more valuable, creating tension that's been building for years. In September 2023, encrypted messages between Mayo's lieutenants revealed discussions about cleaning house and new leadership. Translation: Mayo might be preparing to eliminate the Chapitos entirely. There's another player in this game: Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. AMLO has publicly criticized the bounties, calling them interference in Mexican sovereignty. But privately, sources suggest he's relieved. The Chapitos have become too powerful, too visible, too problematic. But there's a fourth player no one's talking about publicly: the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, has been waiting for exactly this moment. If Los Chapitos and Mayo go to war, CJNG is positioned to seize Sinaloa territory. What do you think is really happening here? Is Mayo betraying Los Chapitos, or is this all political theater? Drop your theories in the comments below. The $10 million bounties aren't just rewards, they're declarations of war, and wars have consequences. Intelligence analysts predict 3 possible scenarios. First, Los Chapitos go underground, fragment their operations, and wage guerrilla warfare against both Mexican and US forces. This means more violence, more instability, and more civilian casualties. Second scenario, Mayo's faction moves against Los Chapitos directly, triggering a Sinaloa civil war. When the Sinaloa cartel fractured in 2008, it led to over 10,000 deaths in Juarez alone. A modern internal war would be exponentially bloodier. Third scenario, both factions weaken each other enough for CJNG to move in. Jalisco has been expanding aggressively for years, and they have the firepower to capitalize on Sinaloa. Chaos Consider the numbers. Over 300,000 people have died in Mexico's drug war since 2006. More than 100,000 people have disappeared. The capture of El Chapo didn't reduce violence, it increased it. And Los Chapitos are more militarized, more ruthless, and more connected than their father ever was. But here's what's truly terrifying. The fentanyl supply chain. Los Chapitos have diversified. Beyond traditional Mexican suppliers, they're importing precursor chemicals from China, establishing lab networks in Guatemala and Honduras, and creating redundant production systems. Capturing or killing Los Chapitos won't stop fentanyl production, it will scatter it. Instead of 3 centralized leaders, the US might face dozens of smaller, more desperate operators who are harder to track and impossible to negotiate with. Mexican cooperation is another wild card. AMLO has 2 years left in office, and his successor will inherit this mess. The bounties put Mexico in an impossible position. Cooperate and face cartel retaliation, or resist and face US economic pressure. Early indicators suggest the bounties are already having an effect. Cross-border violence has increased 40% since the announcement. Cartel recruitment has intensified, and intelligence suggests Los Chapitos are preparing for a prolonged conflict. Here's the most disturbing part. Every major cartel leader captured or killed has been replaced by someone younger, more violent, and more sophisticated. Los Chapitos themselves are proof of this pattern. The $10 million bounties on Los Chapitos represent more than law enforcement. They represent a fundamental shift in how the United States views the drug war. This isn't about arrest and prosecution anymore. This is about elimination. Ivan Archivaldo, Jesus Alfredo, and Ovidio Guzman Lopez are no longer just cartel bosses. They're America's most wanted men, and when $10 million is on the table, someone always talks. The question isn't whether they'll be captured. The question is who will betray them first. A lieutenant looking for retirement money, a rival faction seeking advantage, or perhaps someone much closer to home. Because in the cartel world, loyalty is just another commodity, and everyone has a price. Subscribe for weekly exposés on cartels, global crime syndicates, and the secrets mainstream media won't touch. The underworld is watching, are you?